Okay, hi everybody. We're going to first start with our public hearing at 5:45. This is the Thursday, June 4th edition of our Scranton City Council meeting. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. Ms. Carrera, roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Dr. Rothschild?
Here.
Mr. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Gahn?
Here. Thank you, Ms. Carrera. Mrs. Reed?
Thank you. The purpose of said public hearing is to hear testimony and discuss the following. File of the Council number 9, 2020, amending section 13 as amended by ordinance number 29, 1994 and ordinance number 195, 2003 of the Administrative Code entitled Appropriation in order to require Council's approval prior to the transfer of an unexpended balance of an appropriation item to fund a new job classification or increase the budgeted salary of a job classification.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. There were no public comments or questions submitted as part of the public hearing for file of Council number 9, 2020. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
This public hearing is adjourned. Thank you. Okay, now we are in our caucus. I would like to welcome Councilman McAndrew, Councilman Donahue, Councilwoman Rothschild, Councilman Schuster. We also have Solicitor Hayes here, Jeff Forvath from the Times. We have Lori Reed and Kathy Carrera. So thank you everyone for being here. And we do have a guest today. I appreciate it very much. Ms. Cipriani, who is the Executive Director of our Office of Economic and Community Development in the city. And Ms. Cipriani, we're going to start tonight's caucus by letting you kind of run us through the agenda items tonight. So the ones that we're interested in are 5B and 5C, and those would be the small business loan and grant program. So I think we were all very pleased to see that on our agenda, and we would like to hear more information about it. So I'll hand it over to you to kind of take us through the process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Is there echo back?
No, you're good. I can hear you fine.
Okay. So this is a great opportunity for the small businesses in the city of Scranton. We have $560,000 that will be used in a small business relief fund. That will be divided up into two opportunities for businesses. The first is $275,000 that'll be used in a grant program. That'll be allow us to put out 110 grants at $2,500 per grant. The second opportunity for businesses will be $285,000. That will be in low interest loans between $3,000 and $20,000 per loan. The loans will be 0% interest for the first year with a 6-month deferment. And then the second year, if need be, if the grant is of a higher value, it will be a 1% loan. So the qualifications for this program, the business needs to have been in operation in the city of Scranton prior to the first of this past year. The business needs to have, for the grant program, less than $1 million in annual revenue. For the loan program, less than $3 million in annual revenue. The businesses must be up to date and current on their taxes, their trash fees, their permits, any other obligations to the city and county taxes, of course. It is a really good opportunity. We're really excited, and we've heard a lot of good feedback from the business community as we talk to Scranton Tomorrow, the folks from the chamber, and the small business development entity, because we wanted to get feedback on where there were gaps in other funding programs that had come out. So what we'll be able to do with the funding, the businesses, the top thing that we heard from businesses is to be able to have funding to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 as they open their business. And whether that is outdoor seating or barriers or any sort of protection to keep their employees safe and to keep their customers safe. They can also pay for rent and utilities and other business expenses. We just do want to note that with the loan program, the businesses will not be able to duplicate invoicing. So if you had if you got PPP from the federal government, you cannot use this money to pay for a mortgage at the same time the mortgage costs. You'd have to use it for utilities instead. So there's they'll have to monitor their accounting for this. So once we're done with this, what we want to go back in about 60 days from the time we put out, especially the grants, and go back and talk to the businesses. We want to see what jobs were able to be retained, what the business atmosphere looks like, how is the business doing after that. So we'll be able to get a lot of really good information. And I think this will be very impactful, especially the grant program, to businesses and as they start to open up tomorrow. Now, I've put a lot out there. Do we have any questions? That might be a good time to stop.
Sure, we probably do. I thank you so much for that. And the mayor has just joined us. Thank you, Mayor Cognetti, for joining the caucus. I'll turn it over to you now. Do you have anything that you want to add to that on the agenda items for tonight?
Just we are really excited about the possibility of giving out some help, some direct relief to our small businesses here in Scranton. Eileen has been tremendous, coming on, hitting the ground running to find those funds, find those federal funds. I would stress that these are federal dollars that came to the city. It's not operating budget money from the city. It's federal funds that we need to use to support our small businesses. And I just can't think of a better way to use them given the backdrop of what we've all gone through in these last few months. So I'm excited to get this program out there. I think it's a way for all of us to really be able to help in a direct way. On that piece, I know operationally we try, and stop me if you guys covered this in the first few minutes. So operationally, we thought we might be able to make this work and open the applications from the city directly, but through working with our IT, realized that it would be much more efficient and much safer for city operations to outsource that back end. So I know that you'll be considering next week. That's kind of the technical piece of this. The Scranton Area Foundation jumped in to help when we asked them if they might have the capabilities, and we'd love to be able to work with them on this. We did keep out from those EDA funds. We did keep out a small amount for administration, so we have those funds. We can pay for the administration of this through Scranton Area Foundation using the same bucket of federal dollars. And it's important. It's just, it's important to make sure that we are able to get the grants processed, and it's really be great to be able to utilize them. And I also want to thank the NEPA Alliance. They have been so helpful and will continue to be instrumental in this as they help us with the loans. So that piece is very, very important. That's not something that we could handle here at the city. And I like the idea. I think it's better that we have a third party in these, both the grants and the loans. I think it's good to have another person, another entity rather, in the mix. So that is there. And in terms of the funds, we're happy to take any questions.
Bill, I have a question. Do you mind if I ask? Eileen, could you explain again, how does this program work with the Paycheck Protection Program? So if, in other words, if a small business has already been approved and received paycheck funds through the Paycheck Protection Program, are they still eligible to apply for these funds? And then how do those two sources of funds work together?
Yes, they can apply, but say you use the Paycheck Protection to pay your mortgage in the month of June. You cannot use this money and send the same invoice back to us saying you're using that money for the month of June. You could pay your electric bill and your gas bill, or more to the point, what we really want to see happen is modifications to your business to be able to operate now in this new world order of COVID-19 to make sure everyone's safe.
So these funds that you're seeking approval of, they could be used really for any purposes to keep a small business afloat?
We have a list of purposes. So it's your mortgage, your utilities. If the business needs to buy supplies, they need to buy inventory. And we also put a blank on the bottom for other, and that would be approved by us at the city if there was something else that we hadn't considered in this. That was one of the things that we really heard from businesses is they needed that flexibility to be able to
Right.
get themselves back on their feet.
Great. Thanks a lot, Eileen. That helps.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Dr. Rothschild, is the chairwoman for community development. Do you have any questions? I'll turn it over to you first.
I don't. Mrs. Cipriani and I had the opportunity to speak last week when they were drafting the application and the ordinance for this. I think that it will be really beneficial for the city and for small businesses that might not qualify for other grant programs that are out there right now. You know, whether it be because they have too little of employees or for whatever other reason. And this will be a great way to help them out, hopefully get them back in business as soon as possible. And so that we could also see less businesses closing because of this pandemic. So I'm really happy that we were able to find the funding and that we had the money to do this. I think that it'll be a great help for those businesses. So thank you.
Definitely. Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Cipriani or Mayor Cognetti on the agenda items?
I have a quick one.
Just,
Oh, sorry, Kyle, go ahead.
I just want to piggyback off Kevin's question real quick. You did say that if PPP was used, or if you applied for PPP in the month of June, you couldn't apply for this, you know, for rent, say, you wouldn't be able to apply for this for the month of June also. What if,
Councilman Donahue, you could apply for this. You can't use it to pay for the same things with it.
yes. So just to piggyback off that, if you applied for, say, PPP and used it for May and June, would you be able to apply for this and then use it for the same things for, say, July and August?
Yes.
Or is that
As long as
something,
you're not-
okay.
As long as you're not paying for the exact same service, you know, if someone sent an invoice to us and to the federal government saying they paid their rent with it, they can't do that.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify just that point. And also just on the funding part, this was funding previously allocated towards some sort of small business that's now just being reallocated to this?
Yes, the money for the grants was from enterprise zone tax credits from the Department of Community and Economic Development. It actually came to us in 1999. So we've spoke to DCED and they've given us clearance to do this. And the other pot is from EDA, and we're able to use this as well.
All right, thank you.
With that being said, was there a deadline on the use of that money that you just spoke of?
The one from 1999?
Either of them.
The one in 2016, DCED had given us permission to use it for grants at that point. Right now, the status that it's in is they have discontinued monitoring of it, so they gave us permission to use it for this purpose. The other money from the Economic Development Administration, we're in a position right now where that money has, our accounts have been considered dormant is the terminologies they use. So we need to actually expend this money in order to get out of that status so that we can go again and try and apply for competitive grants from EDA.
Thank you. Sorry, I jumped in there, Mark. I don't know if you want to go ahead with some of your questions and I'll come back.
I just have a quick question. So I know that it's first come, first serve, and I understand that, but now the criteria, is it going to be more focused on need-based? Who needs it more? And how is that selection going to take place?
So with the grants, once you've, and we have the criteria in those documents that I sent you, the city grant, once you meet all of those criteria, then it will be first come, first serve for the $2,500. For the loans, NEPA Alliance, as the mayor had pointed out before, graciously agreed to process the loans for us. So it'll actually be a loan processing procedure with them where they will evaluate their debt ratio and all their accounts to be able to determine if they could sustain that loan.
And that's where it's important to have that third party partner with us, that the NEPA Alliance will be doing those assessments.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so I'm seeing Jeff, this was the next, I see Mr. Horvath is throwing a question out, but it was falling into my next question. So what are the cutoff dates and when are the start dates? And then what does the application process look like? Where does one find the application? Can you walk us through that process?
Absolutely. So we're waiting council approval, obviously, to move forward. And as the mayor mentioned earlier, we're Tuesday you will be considering the agreement between us and the Scranton Area Foundation for the intake process of that. So how this will look, pending all of those approvals that end up in place, is you will be able to go to the website for the city of Scranton. There will be a link on the website that will take you to the Scranton Area Scranton Area Community Foundation's website, and you'll be able to apply right there online and upload information that we ask for on there, and it will be submitted right through the foundation, and we will be able to have our team go through and evaluate and make sure that everything is as it should be, and the process the grants from there. In regards to the loans, the intake process will be similar, except once all the information is obtained by the city, it will go to NEPA Alliance for that evaluation process.
All right. Some of the, is there going to be a receipt or some kind of confirmation that the city has received the applications sent out to the individuals sending them in?
Good question. I believe so, but I will double check that with the Scranton Area Foundation. They have a phenomenal software package that they collect all their grants with. But I will ask them about an email that comes back out to individuals that say, yes, we've been received. So thank you. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I know some of the troubleshooting, I guess, with the county process was that a lot of information needed to be uploaded. And then once it was uploaded, the applicants had no idea whether all of their documents were received or not.
Right. And we did talk to the county because we've learned from them, because they did have a lot of trouble on the intake part of that. And that was the main reason we reached out to the foundation to be able to receive these without, having trouble or jeopardizing our own IT infrastructure.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
That kind of leads me to just a quick question about if the Scranton Area Foundation's website, if they're able to handle the traffic that might come in, because I know a lot of websites and applications, similar things, have crashed because of just a quick influx of people trying to apply at the same time. So is that something that they're prepared for, the increased traffic on their website?
We have discussed this with them and shared with them what we think the traffic will be, and they're telling us they should be fine. If I'm understanding how it is, they actually have a third party that collects in connection to their website, so it's not right on their website.
Okay, thank you.
And just to flag something that will be coming. So in looking at how we make sure that we can handle it and we're not jeopardizing our city infrastructure, we realize that when we know we've been needing to do this for a long time, but we need to find technology, and that software that we can use for bid processes, code enforcement processes, all of those types of things that we've all been talking about upgrading our technology for a long time. This is a type of thing that has been good for us because we've needed to deep dive into what we have and what we need. Obviously, that would full RFP process where we would bring to you all some sort of software solution that we would need your sign off on. So you'll see that coming up where we'll need to figure out what that solution is, but we want to make sure that solution is fully integrated into the other systems that we have, and it all makes sense. So in the meantime, Scranton Area Foundation has the type of capability that we need for this.
One thing, Mr. Chairman, if I could add, as
Sure.
follow-up, what our intention is once we get approval, that we will announce that these grants are coming out and give about a 24-hour lag before we open the link. So it will give people an opportunity to read the guidance and digest what we're asking for. So it'll give them a chance to prepare.
That's a great idea. Thank you. I just have a few questions. With the loan program that you have here, is the 24-month term, is that standard, or how did you arrive at that?
Well, that was in consultation with NEPA Alliance. Some other entities that gave out a little bit less money did 1 year. The city of Wilkes-Barre did a balloon payment at the end of 12 months. You know, this will be something that'll be worked out with NEPA Alliance and us and the loan recipient. You know, obviously, if you got $3,000, you're not going to need 2 years to pay it back. But at $20,000, that may be required, given especially the business environment we're in right now.
And the condition of the loan is, the condition of loan approval is on a credit check, is that correct?
A credit check will be done, yes.
Okay.
And a check, excuse me, Councilman, a check on all of any outstanding fees, any permit violations, any, you know, we'll be checking with fire department, code enforcement department, treasury department to make sure that no one would receive grant funds that has something outstanding with the city.
Right. Okay. Thank you. The other question I had was on page 5 of the loan agreement, under hiring commitments. Is there a requirement that the full-time jobs must be held by or made available to low to moderate income persons because it's federal money? Is that, it's the way it usually works, but I'm curious if it's the same in this case.
I'll have to go back and check on that with you. That is the way that it normally works. I'll have to go back and review that, but I could bring that information back to you.
Okay. And then in terms of moving forward with this loan program, what is the goal of the program moving forward? I know that you said that this money had been sitting dormant for quite some time, and I guess was in competition with another sort of program. So what does this look like moving forward after these monies have been expended?
Right, you're right about that, because what had happened was the loan to grant program was much more desirable about people looking for funding. So once this is expired, what I would like to do is go back to EDA and maybe partner with some other entities and apply for competitive funding coming out of EDA. We really need to stop and evaluate all of our programs, because we need to make sure that they're working for the businesses in our community and are being utilized. We see from this program that it had been underutilized for quite a period of time. So I want to look at them and have, get some input from business community, council, our administration, and find out why it is it wasn't used and what could we do within the confines of the regulations of EDA to make it more advantageous to our community.
Thank you. And this really isn't a question, just a request. I know that because this is coming under an emergency certificate, the grants and the loans are not going to be subject to council approval as they would be under normal circumstances. And I think we all understand why that's being done. But my request would be, and I talked to the mayor previous to this meeting, is just if council could get a report once a month or something as to who's getting what, where the money is going, what businesses they're going to, and I would appreciate that.
Sure, we could easily produce a report of who was awarded a grant. And we are going to do the grants first and then the loans, so that you'll see those first.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
I think Mr. Horvath had a question. Eileen, I'll have you answer. Let me, my chat disappeared. Clarifying, so you mentioned ECTV, but the funds are federal funds. I think maybe just explain that one more time, that it's federal funds.
So the first pot of funds, the enterprise zone, the tax funds, they did originate in the state of Pennsylvania at the Department of Community and Economic Development. The pot of funds that we're using for the loans originated in the federal government. So we have two different tracks going on.
Okay, so state and
none of them are local money.
Correct. Yeah, none of it is local tax dollars.
I have a question. NEPA Alliance, Eileen, I don't know if you can speak to this because you've only been here a couple weeks, but do you know prior to this type of program, did the city engage in a company or a firm like NEPA Alliance, or was that in-house, the type of underwriting for the loans?
To the best of my knowledge, it was in-house.
Okay.
But NEPA Alliance is an economic development organization. Are you guys familiar with them?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
heard of them before.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay.
Yeah, excuse me, I thought Mr. McKendry had his hand up. Now I have a question, but it's not about this subject. It's about a different OECD subject. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So recently I've been contacted. Last week we spoke about some of the Kaiser Valley water issues, and I got some phone calls about the Kaiser Valley Community Center. It seems that they did receive a grant and applied for a grant, and they put out an RFP for design work to be done over there. And the city responded with, I think, maybe 11 stipulations that needed to be done. Most of those stipulations were general stipulations, but two of the things were a soil study and I think a water infiltration study. And I asked about the project, and it was actually an OECD project from 1981. Two of these things here, I guess the design company is saying like maybe we're not responsible from them. They might be looking for some other funds later on. But the two things that are going to be cost some money are going to be possibly the soil study and the infiltration study. But now, because this was an O.E.C.D project, we may have, even though they didn't do infiltration studies at that point in time, can we go back in and see if the soil classification was on that project? Because it might save the city, or at least the Kaiser Valley Community Center, some money on getting that soil study done.
Okay, I will.
That was a mouthful.
That was a mouthful. So it started in 1991,
1981, the center was built.
Okay. All right, I will check into that and get back to you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that is fine, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions related to OECD items or anything on the agenda? I just have one thing, and this is not on the topic of OECD, but I did speak to the mayor earlier today about it, and the Northeast Revenue Services letter that we have on our agenda in third order. Mayor, can you just speak to kind of where we are with this this whole process? We spoke earlier today, council was under the assumption with the previous administration that we were going to cut ties with NRS December 31st, 2019. And then we did receive correspondence from Solicitor Esker that they are going to, the new deadline is now December 31st of this year, 2020. So can you just speak to, what is going on with that?
Sure. I can't speak to what happened previous to my coming on and in our administration. I know it was something that you and Councilperson Donahue were a part of and wanting to see that, really wanting to see that contract expire or be terminated. So I had a chance during this first couple of months, Mr. Sheridan and I and Wayne Beck, who's the treasurer, really looked at the operations of the Treasury Department, and it's not as easy as just ending the contract. The Northeast Revenue Services have been doing a lot of work, not just side by side with the Treasury Department, but with the Treasury Department, there are a lot of our operations there that are intertwined. And in order for us to no longer work with them, it's going to take time, and we have to have that time. So it wasn't something that we could just go ahead and cut off very quickly. We looked at that and realized that we would be it would be premature, and it's probably something that wouldn't actually be a positive outcome. So with this process right now, and you saw Solicitor Esker's letter about the end of the year. Now we have the opportunity to get through this refuse billing cycle and figure out how we can move forward and assess those options.
And in terms of the agreement, the apparent agreement with the county, is that something that's still ongoing, or that there are conversations going on with the county from your administration?
Yeah, we absolutely are looking at that as an option.
Okay.
So
Any other-
we'll continue to assess that and bring that to you all. And, obviously, since we haven't been having, big in-person meetings, and some of these things haven't been on the front burner in the last few months with the COVID crisis, we'll continue those talks and figure out along with you all what's the best solution to move forward. And it's not an isolated thing. We also want to see what's the best path forward for how we collect delinquent taxes, be them the refuse bills, the property taxes. There's all these things. We want to make it, and I know we've talked with this group a lot. We all want to make it more efficient and make it easier to not just pay taxes, also for us to collect them. How can we do that best? So it's tough along the way. There's some things that I know that you all have wanted to see happen more quickly, and the realities of the operations keep us from having been able to do that already.
Any other questions?
Yeah, at this point in time, like what types of things they're wrapping things up? They're just doing the year's business as usual, or?
They are continuing to work the contract. It would not have been feasible to cut. I mean, so again, I wasn't part of decisions and letters that were written in December. The coming in January and cutting off those operations that NRS was doing, we would not have had time to turn it around and have a different company be doing this work for us in this calendar year. That we need to make those changes over this summer, or at least set ourselves up for success to be able to make that transition. There's a lot of work that goes into all of these operations, and it's just too intertwined right now. So, Councilperson Schuster, I'd be happy to walk you through that if in more detail if you would like at some point.
Yeah, when we were talking, I mean, just to maybe bring me up to date, and it's just been a while since I heard of what the initial plan was, but how the county was going to collect delinquencies, how could anybody can answer this actually?
That's an option. It's an option, but we haven't moved forward and transitioned over to anything new yet.
Where are we at with selling the receivables on the garbage step?
So we do not think that this is going to be a very good market for that particular transaction, given everything that is going on. So we are, as we look at the budget, as we look at things that might not come in terms of revenues, that's certainly one that we're not counting on. We don't know that will be something we're able to do this week, or this year rather, excuse me. We're gonna have to look at it and figure out if we can do it, but if we can't, we've got to figure out how to plug that budget hole as
Yeah,
we
that's
all of
gonna
this.
be a tough one.
I mean,
because it's $1.5 million, I think.
Yes. Is there any downside to putting it out and seeing what comes back in?
I'm not sure that there is a downside to that. Mr. Sheridan wasn't able to join us today. He could speak to the particulars better. He'll be joining us on Tuesday. So if we could talk about this in more detail on Tuesday with him, that would be
Okay, yes.
best. Does that work? And he'll
Because that sort of ties into the NRS thing a little bit, because you still need to, with the garbage delinquencies, because even if you were to go to the county for the other delinquencies, they wouldn't be able to collect the refuse delinquencies. So
Right.
that's, something there too, but
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm not sure what that looks like. We need to look at it certainly. But Mr. Sheridan could speak to it a little bit better.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Last thing from me.
I have a quick response for that.
Sure.
Mayor Cognetti, I understand where you're coming with regards to the transition. So this could have been done last December, right? Obviously, or no, the transition.
Well,
we're severing the contract.
That's the thing, is severing the contract. I mean, potentially if a previous administration had done that during the made the steps to transition in the summer and fall, then maybe it would have been possible. But without the work that we need to do now here to make a transition, we can't just make a transition without having NRS involved. So we've got work to do in these coming months to figure out what direction we're going to go, and then while we're still working with NRS, have them transition that information over to whatever entity we choose to work with going forward. So I can't speak to what it would have been previously, but without work having been done in those maybe summer, fall months of last year, it wasn't feasible without, discontinuity of operations to make those changes in these early months of 2020.
And I totally understand where you're coming from, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from. We're going to continue to do business with a company. I don't care if they change their name, change their president, whatever. But, they've been involved in pay to play. Part of court rights sentencing is based on that relationship that they had and occurred. And this same company has, been identified. I'm not, at least 8 other cities where they've done this. So I'm just not comfortable with continuing to do business with people like this. I understand where you're coming from, where, it has to be done in a transition form, but please understand that I'm just not comfortable with it for them reasons.
Well, I understand that the operational side of it, I think, is different than maybe the way that the city came into the contract, right? Sorry about that. It's kind of like, I don't know, maybe we can draw a parallel to some things from the school district, where if a contract was entered into by a previous administration, but that operation is going on, maybe you're not pleased with how that contract came to be, but you are stuck with it, and until you can make a transition. So we're just in this transition period with NRS for a longer period of time than I know we might like, but we're in a position where we'd be cutting our nose off to spite our face if we just quit the contract and then didn't have the infrastructure in place to be able to collect our delinquent refuse bills this year.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think another thing that maybe even having a conversation with Pat Laffey, because the district did end its relationship, as far as I know, with E-Collect, and I do think E-Collect and this company may have some ties together, but.
Remember E-Collect, we did, when we were on the school board together, E-Collect, we did have that contract go through 2019 because we thought that we have this agreement, we might as well let them collect for the city if they can be successful in collecting.
Yeah, I think at this point, maybe they turned over who they identified or what was identified for collections. So maybe talking with him might be a way to end that sooner and maybe smoother.
Well, again, we are, I think, let's not forget that we are terminating the agreement. We are terminating the relationship at the end of the year. We need time to be able to choose another path forward and make that transition.
Thank you. Mayor, can you just speak briefly on 5B with the granting the special encroachment permit to the retail businesses and restaurants to operate on the city right of ways?
Yep. And the guidance is, I sent something to Ms. Reed, but while we were on the call, but I don't think she's able to get it to you. So it's a bit of a live ball since we just had the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board give guidance last night. So with the, hopefully if you all are able to pass this, this temporary change in ordinance to allow businesses to go out onto their sidewalks in front of their stores. So only in front of their stores, not going into the space in front of any other stores next to them. If you have a sidewalk in front of your business, be it retail or dining, you're able to go out there into that space. You do have to let the city know. And part of what we'll send you an updated one. You do need to let us know. We have an online form that's going live tonight, hopefully after your meeting, that a business can go online, fill out that form, let us know that you are doing this, and the city will make sure that they approve it, get that back to you. But we're trying to turn everything around tomorrow. So that's the sidewalk piece. with the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board. Last night, they said that if you have a liquor license for your inside, you can do the same. You can go out onto your sidewalk and you can serve liquor there without having to post for 30 days and go through the whole process with the Liquor Control Board. The Liquor Control Board needs a permit, or excuse me, a acknowledgement from the city that you're in, that they're okay with it. So same piece. We have this online form. Businesses wishing to have their liquor license temporarily extend to their sidewalk, they have to let us know. We'll send you back a letter. We've got the form letter ready to go that says we approve this. Then you need to send that to the Liquor Control Board, and just applying. This is the good thing. Applying with that letter you get from us, you can apply to Liquor Control Board. That application receipt, not an approval, but just the receipt that you applied, is your temporary allowance to do that. So we're trying to turn everything around as quickly as possible tomorrow as we go into yellow. Now, of course, all of the outdoor seating still needs to adhere to the guidance. We still are, we'll be starting yellow phase tonight, and you still need to be putting your seats 6 feet apart, making sure that everyone of your servers are wearing masks, hand washing, sanitizing. All of those guidelines, of course, need to also be met. So that's the sidewalk piece. What we are we're still getting feedback from the business community about street closures. Some businesses think it would be great. Others businesses are not so sure. A lot of the dining businesses think maybe it'd be good, whereas retail are maybe not as enthused about it. So we still are thinking about that, and we're thinking maybe we do a pilot instead of, obviously everything is always flexible, but maybe doing a pilot on just 1 or 2 streets on one of the weekends coming up and see how that goes. So we'll let you guys know what that looks like. And we're waiting we have a bunch of, we had done a survey, but then we did an even bigger survey, and we're waiting for those survey results to come back. So we'll share those with you all and see what you think about that. And you'll see we're gonna have a new site that's going up very, very shortly that puts these resources for reopening, for relief in the form of, the grants, for example, and jobs that are available out there. We're doing a site that is just those 3 things. It's jobs, relief for small business, recovery tools, and then what's that reopening guidance. So it's a little bit easier to really just go to one place and understand what you need to do.
That's great. Thank you so much for coming, Mayor Cognetti and Ms. Cipriani. I think these 3 pieces are kind of the first start of getting the city up and running again in terms of coming out of the red phase into the yellow phase and giving a shot in the arm to small businesses. So I think it's, I appreciate all of your work on this, and I think it's going to be really beneficial. So
yeah, thanks. Could I go through like a couple items in the memo quickly? And
sure. We have 2 minutes until we have to start the meeting at 6:30. Yep. But if you want to stay in for citizens participation, we can.
Oh, okay.
Roll over into that as well.
Okay. Well, whatever you think is best. Would you?
Why don't we do that? We'll start, if you don't mind hanging around, we'll start the regular meeting at 6:30. We'll get through 3rd order. And then when we get to 4th order, just so you're not rushing to try to get everything through. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So we will reconvene here in 2 minutes, and then we'll continue with the mayor and Eileen in 4th order. Okay, we're going to call this public meeting to order. If everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask that everyone remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community. Let us take a special moment of silence tonight for people in our community throughout the world who are suffering or who have passed away from the coronavirus. Let us think about them and their families at this time, that they may find peace, Let us think now about the doctors, the nurses, the researchers, and all medical professionals and first responders who seek to heal and help those affected and who put themselves at risk in the process. May they find protection and peace. Whether we are home or abroad, surrounded by many people suffering from this illness or only a few, let us stick together, endure together, mourn together, persist and prepare together, and in place of our anxiety, let us continue to hope and find peace. Thank you. Ms. Carrera, roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Present.
Mr. McAndrew,
Present.
Dr. Rothschild,
Here.
Mr. Donahue, Mr. Donahue, Mr. Gahn.
Here, and I don't know if you could hear Councilman Donahue, but he is here as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Carrera. There will be a motion to move item 5B to 6th and 7th orders for a final vote based on the attached emergency certificate. There will be a motion to move items 5C and 5D to 7th order as well for a final vote based on the attached emergency certificates. Mrs. Reed, would you please dispense with the reading of the minutes?
Thank you. Third order, 3A, relocation of Lackawanna County voting precincts for the June 2nd, 2020 primary election. 3B, single tax office, city funds distributed comparison report 2019-2020, year-to-date May 31, 2020. 3C, correspondence received from Jessica Esquire, dated May 22, 2020, regarding contract between Northeast Revenue Service LLC and the City of Scranton. 3D, correspondence received from Donald J. Fredrickson Jr. Esquire, General Counsel for Lackawanna County, dated May 19, 2020, regarding Scranton polling places 2-1 and 12-3.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Are there any comments on any of the third order items? I just have one comment on the single tax office report that we received. I was in contact with the tax collector, Mr. Fox. There was a typographical error. They did fix that. So we will be getting the amended report and it will be on our agenda for next week. The error had to do with the third column and the total, or the second column rather. So all of the numbers, when they were added up, they were, the numbers were off. So they have fixed that. It should be $27 million, some odd dollars. So that will be amended and we'll have that in third order next week. Anyone else to, comments on any of the third order items?
Yeah, I think, well, I had some comments on some other things, but I think we covered them in caucus regarding Northeast revenue. But yeah, in regard to the single tax office piece, I guess when we take a look at it, and maybe this is something Mayor Cognetti could touch when she talks in public comment, but the 2019 to 2020 differences, are we chalking that up to strictly COVID? COVID as the reason for the difference in revenues?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll let if Mayor Cognetti wants to touch on that in fourth order. And I do know that I had asked the mayor to have Mr. Sheridan come, but obviously he could not tonight. But that was the plan for him to kind of touch on the single tax office report. So
yeah, it's a possibility, maybe or maybe not.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the third order items? Okay, if not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I do. I have two. The Salvation Army on North Washington or South Washington Avenue is giving away food boxes. So in order to get them, you have to call them at 570-969-6399. You have to provide your last name, the last four digits of your social security number, and the number of people in your family. When you do that, you will get an appointment that day or the next day as when you can come and pick up the food. And the food is, there's quite a bit of it, I guess. They'll have a box of meat, a box of canned goods, a box of dry goods like, you know, starches, rice, pasta, fresh fruits, and fresh vegetables. So my understanding is they still have quite a bit of this. I think people should take advantage of this. And also this Sunday, June 7th, at St. Lucy's Parish in Westside, they're hosting something called the Heat and Eat drive-through only, which is, they said it's a spaghetti bowl giveaway from 1 p.m. until they're out of product. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman McAndrew. Anyone else have any announcements?
Yes, I have two. First off, there is the Arc of Northeast Pennsylvania. They are having a little parade over at Naog Park. It's going to be Tuesday, June 16th. So it's not for another week and a half or so, but it's going to be June 16th at 6 p.m. And usually their clients will have a bowling banquet. They serve clients with disabilities. And so there are adult clients that participate in bowling throughout the year. They usually have a banquet around this time, and they're all really disappointed that that banquet is canceled. And so in order to show support, they're going to be at the park with their trophies and awards. And so they are asking that people who are interested in attending, it's going to be like a parade with vehicles. So the vehicles can line up around 5:30 to drive past the kinds of the arc that will be there. So I think that'd be a really nice way to celebrate with them and to show support for them. And then the other announcement that I had, I just wanted to wish everyone a happy Pride Month. City Hall raised the Pride flag for the 3rd year now, and I'm really proud that we've been able to do that, and we continue to do that. For those who don't know, Pride Month has started in commemoration of the Stonewall riots that happened in 1969. And last year, I think it was the 50th year celebration of Pride Month and the Pride Parade. And a lot of those celebrations we can't have this year, but it's still really important that we recognize this month that's so important to the LGBTQ community that continues to fight for equality. And we've come a long way, but there's still a lot more work to do. So I just wanted to, like I said, wish everyone a happy Pride Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mrs. Reed.
Thank you. Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. I'd like to ask if somebody would please make a motion to accept public comment from the following individuals: Marie Schumacher, Faye Franis, and Patricia Nestor.
I'll make a motion to accept.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman Gahn?
Oh,
Councilman
yes, I'm
Gahn,
sorry.
excuse me. I
Sure.
did send a late email. I apologize. There was a 4th person who did. I was able to confirm that she does reside in the city. So we can add
okay.
her name. Mm-hmm.
Sure. What was her name, Mrs. Reed?
Her name was Simone Daniel.
Okay. Okay, so we'll add Simone Daniels into the official record as well. Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Okay, there's been a motion made. Was there a second? I'm sorry. Somebody wants. Okay.
Second.
On the question? On the question, just a few things. So we received comments from Ms. Schumacher, Mrs. Franis, and Patricia Nestor. Several of Ms. Schumacher's questions about the agenda items would be answered by the program guidance that the mayor provided. We'll put that in 3rd order next week, and it will be, I'm sure, on the website, and the public will be able to view that. That should take care of most of the questions here. The one question from Mrs. Nestor, the mayor declared that the city pools would not be open this summer. Can the council override her and open the pools? Why wasn't this a joint decision? Who on council is for or against opening the pools? I want this on record for the next election. I can answer that question. No, the council cannot override the mayor on that decision. That decision is up to the mayor and the Recreation Authority. And that decision was made, and maybe the mayor can speak to this in fourth order, but there's a pandemic going on where you're supposed to be social distancing. So it would not make any sense to have, dozens and dozens of children swimming around next to each other in a pool. So I don't think it was, it was a decision really that was made by the CDC and the Pennsylvania Department of Health. It's not who's for or against opening pools. I'm sure everybody wants to open the pools, but we also don't want young people and anyone for that matter to get the coronavirus. Does anybody else have any comments on the motion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? The ayes have it and so moved. And Mayor, I'll turn it over to you now if you want to continue where we left off.
Sure. Thank you all for having me again this evening. So I can address a couple of those things that just came up on the public comment. So on the pools, this is not a decision that the administration takes lightly at all. It's not something that we want to do by any stretch of the imagination, but we do find ourselves in this position, as we have been for these past months, where in order to make sure that we're keeping our community safe and providing a safe environment where our kids are able to be socially distant, the families that come with those kids are able to be socially distant. We think about a pool, it's not just the being in the water. I know I'm sure you all get some comments too. Well, they've determined that it's safe to be in a pool. You can't transmit the virus through the pool water. That's not the issue here. The issue is the environment around the pool, where you'd have people, a lot of people. Our pools are wonderful and they get so many people every day. It's very, very difficult, really impossible for us to make sure that everybody's maintaining social distancing standards, making sure that we're sanitizing all of the bathrooms constantly in order to keep everyone safe. It's the same with the play equipment. I hate that we have the yellow tape around the play equipment. I want to rip it off myself, but we have new sanitation equipment that we're able to get. We'll get reimbursed for that with FEMA money, and we'll be cleaning and sanitizing that as much as we can in the future. But we cannot open those things right now because we won't be able to keep up with that, and we don't want to put our families in Scranton in a dangerous position. So it's not fun, and I'm sorry that we've had to make this decision. If there's a way for us to move forward and open the pools at some point, we are continuing to look at that. I certainly would love to be able to do that. If there's a way for us to do that, that makes sense for the city as we go from yellow phase tomorrow into green phase. And as we look at our operations, if there's a way for us to open some of the pools, we will try. But we want to manage expectations. And at this point, those expectations, we need to set them based on the pandemic that we are facing right now. While we're on the subject of parks, I wanted to let you all know, I'm sure you heard that on Sunday we had, the city had yet another fatality at the Naog Gorge. We had already been having Zoom meetings about the gorge and what we could do to deter people from going up there, from jumping, from swimming. So we already had signs, we already have fines for that. What we've done in the past week is we've added cameras. There are now 3 cameras up there that the SPD are monitoring, and they've already in these past couple of days been able to get that information and send a patrol car up there to ask people to leave. So the cameras are there. We added more signage this week that's even more specific, and we are thinking about the possibility of increasing the fine for swimming in the gorge. That's something that that we could all discuss, and I'm open. We are very open to any ideas that you on council or you in the community have for how we can further deter people from going up to the gorge. And we all know all too well how that ends sometimes. So that's the update on that. I appreciate my administration for acting so quickly to get those cameras up. That was tremendous. On the single tax office question, Mr. Schuster, the discrepancy that you would see from 2019 into 2020, we definitely know that the pandemic is a huge piece of that. The closures of businesses, the closures of organizations, the layoffs that have hit everyone in every sector. definitely have an impact on those tax collections. So we continue to monitor all of those pieces, and Pat Sheridan, our business administrator, is going to be at the caucus on Tuesday to further go through that with you. He wasn't able to join tonight for family reasons. So to take that into the next business administrator topic. So I let you know via memo today that we have a new business administrator, Carl Deely, who began the job on Monday. Pat Sheridan and Carl Deely have generously offered to share the position for the month of June. So they are splitting the salary and benefits. It's no extra cost to the city. They're splitting those down the middle. And I'm very grateful for their generosity in
Oh, Mayor, I think you muted. You're muted by accident.
sorry.
That's okay.
Did I talk about Carl and Pat sharing the job?
I think you just got cut off when that started.
Okay. So Mr. Deely started on Monday. Mr. Sheridan is still with us this month, and they are sharing the role, which is tremendous. So it's split the salary, split the benefits. It's not an extra cost to the city. We're able to get this transition where, you know, Mr. Sheridan's been working on a slew of things, and Mr. Deely's coming in, and they'll be working together for the month to be able to make that warm handoff, which is very, very helpful for a lot of reasons. So we haven't said goodbye to Mr. Sheridan yet, so we'll do that at some point, and hopefully we might be able to find a way to still be able to get his guidance as we look at these tax issues. For example, some of the audit processes are something that Mr. Sheridan's been working on, and looking at the Treasury Department and seeing how it can work better. So back to what we talked about on the caucus, how do we collect taxes? How do we go after delinquent taxes? This is kind of Mr. Sheridan's bread and butter. So we might be coming to you with a proposal of how to potentially keep working with him in some manner, but not as a full-time employee. You'll see Mr. Deely's appointment letter, I believe, on your June 16th agenda, but I included his bio in that memo to you all. We also have another attorney that's joined us. Mr. Joe O'Brien is now on the team in the legal department. We're very, very grateful for him signing on to help the city. He has a very strong background in public sector law and will be a great asset to all of us. The other pieces that I just wanted to touch on. So, you know, the issues that are going across the country right now, we sent to you, and it was late this afternoon, but I wanted to make sure I got it to you before this. I sent you a letter co-signed by Chief Graziano and myself that goes through, restates what we've said before, what the chief has said, that we at the city have responsibility to create an environment where all of our cities feel safe, full stop, feel safe. Also safe to express their views. So we welcome people to rally and make their voices heard, and we have a responsibility to listen. So I'm very privileged. We all are very privileged that Chief Graziano has been the police chief in Scranton for so many years, because he is already employs progressive policies, implements progressive training, and he detailed for us many of these things in this document that I sent you. And you're welcome to please share this with citizens that reach out to you, and we'll be doing the same from here at the city. So some of the things that it details are there's a new advocacy movement called 8 Can't Wait. So it's 8 policy reforms that people are asking people to ask their mayors and their police chiefs to address. So we specifically go through each of the 8, and essentially the Scranton Police Department in its policies already has elements of all 8 there, and you can see there how we are addressed. Well, how the chief already has addressed these things, but we can certainly improve upon them. We would absolutely, we will look at these. There is a policy review committee at the police department that continually looks at policy, and he and I will continue to work on listening and seeing what we can do better. But we're so fortunate and to council members Gahan and Donahue, who were, I think, on council when the police officers got the body cams. That's a huge piece of what we can be really proud of in Scranton, the proactive steps that the police department has taken to have transparency in the police department. And you'll see in there, there's a duty to intervene policy, there's de-escalation training, incident review. The police policies prohibit any use of neck restraints, as we all unfortunately have seen that video from Minneapolis last week. So, please go through that. I'm sure the chief would be happy to go through it in more detail at any time, but I wanted to make sure to get that to you all tonight, and please get to that to our constituents as you get questions.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Does anybody have any questions for Mayor Cognetti? Mayor, I just have one. It's a little off topic, but Councilman Donahue and I have been talking about this, and I know Councilman Donahue had asked previously, but can you give us any update on the paving project for this year? I know that's on everybody's mind throughout the city.
Yes. So the RFP was supposed to go out today.
Great. Thank you so much. That's good news.
That's the RFP for the for the engineering, correct?
I believe so.
I believe that, yeah, because the engineering has to go off first, I believe, and then you put out for the actual paving. I believe is the process there.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't have it right in front of me, but
Yes.
yeah.
And
So
I was also gonna mention NAOG, the gorge. So I'm happy that there's already steps being taken, and I'll be reaching out too, just with a couple other suggestions.
yeah, please, really, because it's one of these things that we just you can't ever guarantee these things, but anything that we can do, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a problem up there for generations, so it's just continuing to adapt.
Right, yeah. Any suggestions are welcome.
Anyone else have any questions for the mayor? Mayor, we always appreciate you taking the time out of your busy life and being the mayor and everything else that you have going on. So we really appreciate it and appreciate you coming and answering our questions and being transparent, with your administration. So we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks all very much. And tomorrow, Yellow Phase, we'll keep getting that guidance out as much as we can. As I said on the caucus, we're hoping to launch that new site very, very soon to be able to have members, especially business owners and organization owners who are opening the doors for the first time in the next days and weeks, get you more specific resources, make sure that you know what you need to do to reopen.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Reed, fifth order.
Thank you. Fifth order, 5A motions.
Councilman Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
No, not at this time. I think actually in the previous portions of the meetings, a lot of the things have been addressed.
Thank you very much, Councilman Schuster. Councilman McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments at this time?
Yeah, just a couple. So, two concerned citizens. I already forwarded these questions to Mrs. Reed, and they just asked a couple questions. One is, how many tickets have been given out for texting while driving? So please, Ms. Reed, send that forward. And also another citizen came to me and is concerned or wants to know how does one get a speed bump study started? So Mrs. Reed, if you could still pass that along and to see how we do that. I want to touch a little bit on what Mayor Cognetti just said with regards to that Act 8 can't wait. So I know that I received a few emails. I know that fellow council members received some emails, and it's regarding the police violence. And it contained a link to the website called 8 Can't Wait. That recommends 8 policy reforms to protect Black citizens. So I also had the opportunity to speak with and converse with Chief Graziano, and I'm happy and proud to say that we pretty much satisfy all 8. And I'm just going to touch on them real quick because I asked him to send them to me in bullet form. So, banning chokeholds and strangleholds, already a policy. Required de-escalation, It's already a policy. There's ongoing and continuous training for this. Require warning before shooting. Our policy states if possible, officers shall first give a verbal warning. Exhaust all other means before shooting. This is already a policy, okay? Duty to intervene. This is inherent as a crime is not to stop or report excessive force. Our officers would be held criminally liable. So, this is a policy that's in place. Ban shooting of a vehicle. Police can't completely ban shooting of vehicles. And, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but an instance is, if police are being shot at from a vehicle, of course they can shoot at a vehicle. All right. Require use of force continuum. This is also a policy. And require comprehensive reporting. This is already a policy. So I'm glad to say again that we're already satisfying them the 8 can't wait initiatives. So I know we should share that with a few people that reached out to us. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councilman McAndrew. Dr. Rothschild, do you have any motions or comments at this time?
Yes, I have a couple of comments. First off, I'd like to comment on 2 of our pieces of legislation tonight, 5C and 5D. I mentioned these things in caucus, but I just wanted to bring them up during the meeting, that I'm really happy that we were able to find these funds to be able to utilize for small business grants and loans at this time. I know that businesses are really hurting, especially your small businesses. I would hate to see more businesses close as a result of this pandemic, and I believe that these funds are going to be really helpful on getting some businesses back up on their feet, help them to purchase PPE, and perhaps I know that some businesses have not qualified for grants that are out there, maybe if they've had too little of employees or for whatever reason, and so they might then be appropriate and qualify for the ones that we would be offering now. So I want to thank O.E.C.D and its new director, Ms. Cipriani, for getting creative with our funds. And that's what we need more of, frankly, to find ways to help out businesses, to help out our community with what we have. So the next thing that I wanted to address, I just wanted to mention a few things with regards to what's going on in our country right now, and to just address racism and police brutality. I feel like has not been addressed enough, and obviously we do not have any people of color here on our council or on our call, but I would like to think that I could help be a voice for people, and that I can be here to support the Black and Brown community and whatever their needs are. I did attend the protest that happened downtown last weekend. I believe I was the only elected official there. I'm really happy to say that it was very peaceful and respectful, and really proud of our city, and that there has not been problems like looting or rioting that we've seen in a lot of other cities throughout our country right now. So I just feel like I need to say that Black Lives Matter, and that we see you, and we need to be doing more. For far too long, Black people have been treated less than, and it's about time that they become equal like the rest of us. So we have a problem with systemic institutionalized racism in our country. We're not immune to this in our city. It happens everywhere. And I want to make sure that we do everything possible to prevent what happened to George Floyd and to many others from happening here in Scranton. So I appreciate that many of us have already been on top of addressing the many emails that we've received from citizens. I've had a lot of conversations with people about what could be done here in our city to take steps to address these issues. And thank you to Mark for Councilman McAndrew for explaining some of the things that Chief Graziano sent over. I have the utmost respect for Chief Graziano and our police department, and I know that they have really done a good job of already adding to the policies that they have. I I believe that we always can do better, and I'm interested at looking at ways that we can do that. One of the suggestions that we've had from a few citizens has been to have a citizens review board, which we don't have in Scranton. Not really sure how many cities in Pennsylvania do, if they're larger cities, or the effectiveness to those boards, but I'm certainly interested in exploring that as a possible option. I would be concerned about funding, of course, for something of that nature, but you know, I would be happy to have suggestions, and I'll certainly do more research on those review boards to see if it's something that we need. In the meantime, continue to provide us with your input and what you feel like the Black and Brown community needs, and I'm here to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothschild. Councilman Donahue, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, just briefly. First, I would like to thank Fire Chief Lucas's quick response to my inquiries last week regarding the emergency management plan, and also the way that they're dealing with the firehouses. I haven't gotten, there was a lot of documents that came through, so I haven't gotten completely through them. So I'll touch more on that at our next meeting on Tuesday. But I just want to thank him for his quick reply to those inquiries. Just a couple requests I have for this week. The blue bin recycling, it's still being collected as recycling, but is unfortunately being taken up to the landfill. And the reason we got for that about 2 months ago was not knowing how COVID-19 would, how long it stays on surfaces, and with concerns with the spread happening there. So would we be able to, Mr. Reed, would we be able to send a request to the county to see where we're at and what the plan is for restarting, bringing blue bin recycling back to the recycling center? And also, we'd like to request from the administration an update on all the issues involving the 700 block of Wyoming Avenue. I believe there's a couple different lawsuits over there involving, you know, Mr. Young, the Kennedys, and I think there's a couple other families now involved in that. So just to see if we could get an update on the whole situation over there. Then I also talked to the city engineer, John Pocious, today about some of the issues in Kaiser Valley with the flooding. He did say that the previous administration had put together bid specs for a hydraulic study to be performed. In looking at some of the options over there, they came across some grant funding that's available, but the grant funding is only available if you already have a project on the shelf ready to go. So the first part to getting to that point to even be able to apply for the grant is to do this legwork up front. So would we be able to also ask the administration, because it's my understanding that it's all ready to go, it just needs to be sent out to do this hydraulic study. And that would basically just determine how the water flows, how you get the water to the pump station, and how much volume the pump station can handle then going out. And then I do also have a meeting scheduled with the new DPW director to go over some initiatives. So hopefully I could update everyone at the next meeting regarding that. And that's all I have for fifth order tonight.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Donahue. I just have two things. First, I want to just state that I agree with Councilman Donahue. I'd also like an update on the Meadowbrook Creek project and the 700 block of Wyoming Avenue. That's been an issue now for the last few years, and I know Al Young and his family are affected, and there's several other families affected by that. And that's just not an issue that has gone away, even though it has not been discussed here in a little while because it's in litigation. But it would be good for us to get an update on the overall project. I also want to thank the mayor and Ms. Cipriani for coming to our caucus tonight. I do just want to note that I think it's good that we're in a pattern now that these are regular occurrences, where in the past, you know, we may see someone from the administration once, you know, it was like once every few years. Now, anytime I've requested that the mayor come to caucus with one of her cabinet members, they have always had no problem doing that. So I do want to thank them for that. And again, since I've been on council, I thought that should just be a regular occurrence. So I'm glad to see that when council has questions and we ask them to come, they do show up and they do answer questions. And the last thing that I wanted to say was that the mayor touched on this a little bit, but we are moving to the yellow phase in Lackawanna County. You know, I've seen a lot of things on social media and about moving to the yellow phase. I just want to remind people that this doesn't mean that the coronavirus has magically disappeared. It's still here. It is still spreading, although at a much slower rate. There were 13 new cases today in Lackawanna County. But my message is that we still need to remain vigilant and continue to practice social distancing where possible and wear masks. It does not make any sense to give up at this point and just think that, you know, this virus has gone away, or that because we're in the yellow phase, we can just go out and do whatever we want. I think it is important for our economy to start opening back up, and that is going to happen. I think some of the things on our agenda tonight will help the small businesses and will help that along. But I don't think that we can, you know, just give up at this point in terms of some of the measures that we've taken over the last few months. So I would ask people, you know, not to be selfish, to wear masks in public, to follow those guidelines as we have been, and think of other people when you're out and about as we move into the yellow phase. And that's all I have. Mrs. Reed?
Thank you. 5B, for introduction, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to grant a special encroachment permit to city retail businesses and restaurants to operate on city right-of-ways, emergency certificate attached.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Is there a second
Second.
on the question? And would someone like to make an amendment to this at this time? Councilman Donahue?
That's not until
Councilman,
7th, right?
Don't we
We'll be
wait,
doing that in seventh order.
we'll do that in seventh order.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I couldn't hear what you guys just said.
That will be done in seventh order, correct?
Oh, seventh order. I'm sorry, jumping the gun there. Okay, on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
I make a motion to suspend the rules to move item 5B to 6th and 7th orders based on the attached emergency certificate.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5C, for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the city of Scranton to enter into loan agreements and make loans from the Economic Development Administration revolving loan program between $3,000 and $20,000 to various small businesses in the city of Scranton to assist eligible projects and to offset the financial impact COVID-19 has had on businesses as part of the City of Scranton Small Business Relief Loan Program. Emergency certificate attached.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Is there a second
Second.
on the question? On the question, I just want to say two things. Number one, we're all aware that the pandemic has had really a devastating effect on our citizens and on our economy. We need to do everything that we can as elected officials and as a city to help our citizens and to help our economy and our businesses. I'm hoping that this piece and 5D will be a shot in the arm to our local economy. We live in very challenging times, but we can't let them define who we are. we need to continue to be creative and come up with solutions to the problems we face. And this is really a great first step in that. And I was pleased to hear from Ms. Cipriani tonight on some of the ideas even moving forward with the loan program, because I think that this is the first step, but we're going to need to do other things and moving forward as the economy continues to change and the pandemic continues to progress and hopefully at some point goes away. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to enter into grant agreements and make grants from the city of Scranton's Enterprise Zone Fund in the amount of $2,500 to various small business throughout the city of Scranton as part of the city of Scranton's Small Business Relief Grant Program due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Emergency certificate attached.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
On
All
the
those-
question. No,
Sure.
sorry about that.
That's
On the
okay.
question, this is something I should have asked in caucus while we had Mrs. Cipriani and the mayor on these. Did they work with like some of the local businesses to define the $2,500? Do we know that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the exact answer to that, but I'm pretty sure that the reason that they did that was to kind of, with the money that they had, to spread it out to as many businesses as possible. That's my guess, Tom, but
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I know in the county there, I mean, there was a large influx of people that were applying for those and they went fast. So
Mhm.
I'm sure the same thing here. I'm wondering if they don't go as fast as the county, if there's something left over, if larger grants can be awarded.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, President Gahan, you're correct. They did want to spread it out so that they could give as much as they could to as many businesses as they could. I believe it's the amount for 110 businesses. Yeah, it might be. I'm sure it's something that they could revise if for some reason it doesn't go as quickly. But yeah, I would think with the immense need right now that that'll be used up pretty quickly.
Yeah, so that was part of the discussion, the initial discussion.
Thank you. Good question. Anyone else on the question? Okay, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
I make a motion to suspend the rules to move items 5C and 5D to seventh order based on the attached emergency certificate.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5E for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to waive the residency requirement for Eileen Cipriani in her capacity as Executive Director of the Office of Economic and Community Development for the City of Scranton, subject to certain conditions.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
Second.
Somebody's got to say.
I
so
did
moved.
second.
So moved.
Whatever.
Okay, and then Councilman McAndrew gave a second. On the question?
I have something on the question. All right, so my vote for this will be one of principle. This is not personal or political, as I've been accused. I voted yes to appoint Mrs. Cipriani because of her qualifications, which are not in question. So what my first reason is the city actually has a policy that states employees must reside in the city. So that's number one. Number two, I've always been about being fair and equitable for all, okay? Number three, I live here and I have to look in the eyes of 100 plus firefighters, 100 plus police officers, almost 100 DPW workers, and 40 plus furloughed clerks that just lost their benefits with uncertainty of even getting their jobs back. They have to live here. They pay taxes here. They have skin in the game. I know the mayor, a couple of colleagues on council, and a few others that disagree with me. And that's okay. I mean, my wife and I have disagreements every day, and we were still married for 32 years. So when on school board and now on council, I've always owned my vote. And at the end of the day, I have to live with my vote. I can live with this one. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question?
I would also just, I agree with, everything Mr. McCann just said, that it's about fairness and equity. And no matter if you're the employee at the bottom end of the pay scale or the top end of the pay scale, we should all be treated the samely. We should all follow the same rules. That's not to say that I don't think that, a waiver shouldn't be used in any way. I
think we lost you, Kyle. Can anyone else hear Kyle?
No.
No, you're still breaking up a little bit.
How about now? You got me now?
Yep, now I can hear you better.
I think it's about fairness and equity, and whether you're at the top end of the pay scale or the bottom end of the pay scale, everyone should be treated equally.
Oh, now you're frozen and muted, Kyle. Okay, we'll give him a minute to unfreeze himself. It's happened to the best of us, so I understand. Okay, while Kyle's coming back to us, does anybody else want to add on to the question?
Yeah, so on the question, according to the city code, what it stated with this waiver was that what was best for the city. And at that time, we did have a little bit of negotiations there that some of the stipulations that we had weren't met. So although it was unconditional, the way that we negotiated, I think in the end, we realized that communication helps with things like this. So there were a lot of criticisms that came out there, but I think what occurred with this waiver ended up being the best for the city. So I think that is by the code. So I do think it was a better deal for the city, and I do think it's fair that Mrs. Cipriani, although not living in the city, pay what every other citizen pays.
Anyone else on the question? The only thing I want to add is just a few things. First of all, I understand both sides of the argument here. I just kind of want to reiterate what I said 2 or 3 weeks ago. It does say in the Home Rule Charter that it shall be within the sole discretion of the mayor in evaluating the circumstances of each candidate for employment to determine whether or not to seek a waiver of the residency requirements contained herein. So the mayor does have that right if she, deems that person to be qualified and it to be in the best interest of the city, that person then would or she would submit a waiver to council. I agree with my colleagues that in a perfect world, I would like to see everyone that works for the city live in the city. As I mentioned 2 or 3 weeks ago, we're in the midst of a pandemic that has rocked the United States, it's rocked the world, and it has totally thrown our economy into a complete upheaval of epic proportions by anyone's account. We, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, we may be entering into one of the worst recessions since the Great Depression in the 1930s. So as Councilman Schuster said, what I have to balance as a councilman is what is best for the city. And I do think that Ms. Cipriani is the best person at this time for the city to take that position. If anyone watched the caucus tonight, who's out there watching this meeting, you saw that Ms. Cipriani, number one, came prepared, and number two, basically paid for herself and some with the money that she found lying in an account that was there since 1999. Now we have a $500,000 loan and grant program that is going to be on its way as soon as we pass it in 7th order tonight. I think that's important to know. Our small businesses need help. Our citizens need help. So I think at this point, you really, in my vote, just because I think you have to do what's right for the city. The other thing I want to point out too is qualifications wise, she has a master's degree in organizational management, a degree in leadership development and project management. She's the former deputy secretary for workforce development for the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry. She was the director of the State Workers Insurance Fund and the special assistant for strategic initiatives in the Department of Labor and Industry. So I think that most citizens would say, geez, do I want this person to be in charge of the federal programs and the millions of dollars that come in from the federal government and how they're going to be spent? And do I want somebody who has this kind of background to be in charge of that? I would hope that people would say yes. Again, I understand the other argument. You know, I really do, but in this is such a unique situation that we find ourselves in that I feel that we'd be doing the city a disservice, you know, not to try to push this, pass this through. So I'll be voting yes. And Kyle, I'm sorry, you froze on us, so.
Yeah, my computer, I apologize.
That's okay. I don't know if you want to finish your comments or.
Where, do you know where I left off?
I
or-
can't remember. I can't remember.
I mean,
We heard most of it, but if you.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, you know, this is nothing to do with the qualifications, but we also have 75,000 people in the city. The fact that we're saying that we can't find one that lives in the city that's qualified to take this job, I'll take those odds any day.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. The only thing is I would bet, I'm not a betting man, but I would bet that it'd be very hard to find someone who has a master's degree in organizational management, who was the former deputy secretary for workforce development for the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry. It just, all these things add up. And to me, when you put that in front and you say, hey, we're in the middle of a pandemic, we're in the middle of the worst economic recession, at least since the 1930s. That's what's swaying my decision. But I do understand the other side of it, certainly. Anyone else on the question?
Yes, I don't want to stay silent. I know I've made several comments on this over the weeks, but of course I echo President Gahan's comments regarding her qualifications and the situation that we're in during this pandemic and how it's unique. I know that some our fellow council members had expressed that they didn't feel that it was justified, but I don't really understand what circumstances would then justify the waiver, because I feel like this completely does. I also just personally feel that this piece of the code is antiquated, something that's not used in a lot of cities. And while I do agree that I think our employees should be from the city. You know, I was very impressed with the qualifications she had, and it just doesn't make sense to me as to why we would vote in favor of the appointment and then vote against the waiver. So do we expect in 6 months to change the O.E.C.D director and have turnover in that office? I don't think that that is really a healthy decision for our city either. So I am still supportive of this piece of legislation. I appreciate the changes that have been made to it and the items that Ms. Cipriani has now agreed to. And I'll be voting yes on it tonight. So that was all that I wanted to say. Thank you.
Bill, sorry, if I could add, because I think when I got cut off before, I was explaining to, you know, the circumstances in which I would consider a waiver. And that's, I believe the waiver system should be used as an extension to the 6 months. So if you have every intention to move into the city within 6 months, but then, you know, any sort of circumstances that go with buying, selling homes and relocating your family and whatnot, you know, should be taken into consideration to give some sort of extension, but I don't think that extension should ever exceed, you know, another 6 months. And I think I just want to clarify that because I think I got cut off when I was mentioning that before.
So I would also like to add to that.
Sure.
When looking at this, I mean, the salary isn't astronomical, so I could understand maybe a possibility of not moving. And because it's a department head within a mayor's cabinet, I mean, the possibility that the tenure could only last 2 years is something that I took into consideration. If we take a city like New York City, which I would say is one of the more progressive cities in the country, if you're to get a job in that city, you do have to move into the city. And I think you have to stay there for 2 to 3 years before you're allowed to move into an adjacent county. So to say that this is something that's antiquated is one thing, but I think with the circumstances here, having her pay taxes in the city, I think is a very good compromise from some of the arguments that Mr. Gahan had with the past administration.
I agree. Thank you. Anyone else on the question? Okay, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, the ayes have it 3-2. Mrs. Reed?
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file of the council number 9, 2020. An ordinance amending section 13 as amended by ordinance number 29, 1994, and ordinance number 195, 2003 of the administrative code entitled Appropriation in order to require council's approval prior to the transfer of an unexpended balance of an appropriation item to fund a new job classification or increase the budgeted salary of a job classification.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure? Hello out there, anybody?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
6B, formerly 5B, reading by title, file of the council number 10, 2020, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to grant a special encroachment permit to city retail businesses and restaurants to operate on city right-of-ways, emergency certificate attached.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6B pass reading by title and is referred to its proper committee.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, formerly 6B, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, file of the council number 10, 2020, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to grant a special encroachment permit to city retail businesses and restaurants to operate on city right-of-ways, emergency certificate attached.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Excuse me, Councilman Gordon?
Sure.
Well, we need a motion here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping the gun again. Thank you, Mrs. Reed.
I make a motion to amend item 7A to add the following section. Section 6, this ordinance will become null and void, and the suspension of the processes provided herein will expire upon the rescindment or expiration of the operational restrictions placed on businesses and restaurants in Lackawanna County by the Governor of Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania Secretary of Health, which relate to the novel coronavirus known as COVID-19.
Thank you. There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second on the question. On the question, Solicitor Hayes, can you just kind of explain what that amendment is?
Certainly. Thank you, Councilman Gahn. The proposed resolution that was passed or that was sent down to us by the law department asked for a suspension of certain processes and to allow encroachment permits to go through without getting the normal approvals. I think the general consent, the general consensus I received from council is that that was an appropriate step while these restrictions are in place because of the coronavirus. However, the way it was written, it was completely open-ended. So what we did was amend it to make it expire when all restrictions that are currently in place because of the coronavirus are lifted. So we'll go back to normal order after this whole pandemic has passed and all restrictions that are placed on our businesses have been lifted.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else on the question?
Just on the question, just want to thank Kevin for putting this together, because that was going to be one of my questions that I came up with that I was going to bring up in caucus tonight, but we had gotten this, right before our caucus. So thank you, Kevin, for putting that together.
Okay,
No problem.
thank you. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of the motion to amend item 7A, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Mrs. Reed?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, no. See, I can't see Mrs. Reed. Usually she'd be sending the glare at me right now to tell me that I'm not doing this the right way. Okay, now I'm going to get this right. There should be a roll call on this, correct?
Yeah.
Not
No,
as-
we're the chair for rules. Yes.
I'm
As
sorry.
chairperson for the Committee on Rules, Mr. Gahn, you may make a recommendation.
Yeah, okay. As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, on the question? Roll call, please, Ms. Guerrero. Sorry, Ms.
Mr.
Guerrero.
Schuster? Okay. Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A as amended, legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, formerly 5C, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for Adoption. Resolution number 34, 2020, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the city of Scranton to enter into loan agreements and make loans from the Economic Development Administration revolving loan program between $3,000 and $20,000 to various small businesses in the city of Scranton to assist eligible projects and to offset the financial impact COVID-19 has had on businesses as part of the City of Scranton Small Business Relief Loan Program. Emergency certificate attached.
Phil, you're muted.
Sorry, let me restart here. What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As a chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, formerly 5D, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for Adoption. Resolution number 35, 2020, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to enter into grant agreements and make grants from the city of Scranton's Enterprise Zone Fund in the amount of $2,500 to various small business throughout the city of Scranton as part of the City of Scranton Small Business Relief Grant Program due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Emergency certificate attached.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As a chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned. Stay safe, stay healthy. See everybody next Tuesday. Bye-bye.